Hello learners, and welcome to English 8's virtual classroom. Today's topic is all about modals. Have you ever experienced expressing yourself the way it should be, but have the hard time in conveying your thoughts? In this lesson, you will learn on how to speak with urgency or importance, possibility, and emphasis through the use of modals. You will also learn the different types of modals and their uses. Modal is an expression that carries different shades of meaning. It is used to show or convey meaning with seriousness, certainty, and intensity. There are three types of modals such as modal noun, modal verb, and modal adverb. The most essential learning competency covered in this lesson is on how to use modal verb, nouns, and adverbs appropriately. Specifically, you are expected to identify modal verbs, nouns, and adverbs used in sentences. Construct sentences using appropriate modal verbs, nouns, and adverbs. Address different societal problems by writing ideas using different modals. Before you proceed, check your knowledge on the lesson that you are about to learn. Have your pens and notepads ready to test yourself by answering the following exercises. Take note of the items that you cannot answer correctly so you could look for the right answer as you go through this lesson. Directions. Choose the correct modal to complete each sentence. Write the letter of your answer on your notepad. Let us have number 1. Annalisa blank turned 16 this year and plans to have a simple party. The choices are letter A, can, letter B, may, letter C, must, letter D, will. And the correct answer is letter D, will. Annalisa will turn 16 this year and plans to have a simple party. Number 2. You blank study hard to pass the test and make it to the top. The choices are letter A, could, letter B, might, letter C, should, letter D, would. And the correct answer is letter C, should. You should study hard to pass the test and make it to the top. Number 3. If Carl campaigns hard, his win is A and blank. The choices are letter A, promise, letter B, certainty, letter C, responsibility, letter D, obligation. And the correct answer is letter B, certainty. If Carl campaigns hard, his win is a certainty. Number 4. There is a blank of rain tomorrow. Letter A, decision. Letter B, request. Letter C, possibility. Letter D, necessity. The correct answer is letter C, possibility. There is a possibility of rain tomorrow. Number 5. My mother is blank coming home late tonight because of the heavy traffic. The choices are letter A, ably, letter B, possibly, letter C, obligately, letter D, promisingly. And the correct answer is letter B, possibly. My mother is possibly coming home late tonight because of the heavy traffic. Number 6. My father is blank proud to work hard for our family. The choices are letter A, willingly, letter B, permissively, letter C, requisitely, letter D, obligately. The correct answer is letter D, obligately. My father is obligately proud to work hard for our family. Alright, were you able to get a perfect score? If so, you did great. If not, better luck next time. So before this lesson, you learned about the proper ways of citing sources. Let us see if you can still remember some of the important concepts. Let's review. Read each of the following situations. Write A if it is acceptable and NA if it is not acceptable in writing a bibliography. Write your answers on your notepad. Number 1. A learner can get information from various websites and acknowledge the author by writing the sources used. Number 2. A learner may not cite sources of information that he or she used in his or her research. Number 3. A research paper requisitely contains a bibliography written on a separate page and placed at the end of the paper. Number 4. It is important to cite the sources of information that you used in your research because it will give credit to the author. And number 5. In writing a bibliography, it is a necessity to use appropriate punctuations. The timer starts now. Time is up. Let's see if your answers are all correct. For number 1, the correct answer is letter A, acceptable. A learner can get information from various websites and acknowledge the author by writing the sources used. Let's proceed to number 2. The correct answer is NA, not acceptable. A learner may not cite sources of information that he or she used in his or her research. Number 3. The answer is letter A, acceptable. It is acceptable. A research paper requisitely contains a bibliography written on a separate page and placed at the end part of the paper. Number 4. The answer is A, acceptable. It is important to cite the sources of information that you used in your research because it will give credit to the author. And for the last number, the answer is A, acceptable. In writing a bibliography, it is a necessity to use appropriate punctuations. Did you get a perfect score? If yes, well done. If no, then you've got a nice try. Take note of the italicized words used in each of the sentences. What do you think are these words? Yes, these words are called modals or modal expressions. As you go through this lesson, you will also learn each of the different types of modals. You have just done reviewing your previous lesson on writing a bibliography. This time, as you go through the next activities, you will be learning about the correct use of modal verb. What's more powerful? Directions. Study and analyze statements A and B. Statement A. All persons below 21 years old must stay at home during enhanced community quarantine. Statement B. All persons below 21 years old might stay at home during enhanced community quarantine. Let's do some self-check. Which of the following statements would make a person below 21 years old feel sadder? Notice the underlined words in the two statements. What do you call these words? Yes, these words are examples of modal verbs. Did the previous activity help you? This part of the lesson will deepen your learning about modal verbs and their functions. Let's read and examine the sentences below. Number 1. His 75-year-old mother is too old to ride a horse. Number 2. His 75-year-old mother might be too old to ride a horse. What have you noticed in sentences 1 and 2? Do they have the same meaning? If not, what is their difference? Sentences 1 and 2 have different meanings. Sentence 1 states a fact that his mother is too old for horseback riding, while sentence 2 expresses the possibility that his mother could no longer do horseback riding due to her age. The presence of the word might in sentence 2 makes the meaning different. The word might is an example of a modal expression that functions as a verb. Aside from might, there are other commonly used modal expressions that function as a verb, like may, can, could, shall, should, will, and would. Modal verbs are auxiliary or helping verbs which modify or change the meaning of the main verbs. You use modal verbs in giving advice or suggestions, in making requests, or in giving predictions and prohibitions. To show more of the other uses of modal verbs, here is a list with sample sentences. When a person is really certain with what he or she is going to say, he or she can use modals like will, shall, must, won't, will not, shan't, shall not, can't, and cannot. Sample sentence: Jana's debut party will be planned secretly. For the use of very likely, modals like should and ought to can be used. For instance, the traffic is not heavy. We should be there before the time. For expressing possibility, may, might, and could can be used. For example, it may rain today. For showing strong obligation, modals like must, have to, need to can be used. Let's say, for instance, the plan must be accomplished without her knowing it. Now, for showing weak obligation, modals like should and ought to can be used. For example, you should not smoke because it is very dangerous to your health. And for expressing no obligation, modals like needn't, need not, don't need to, do not need to, don't have to, do not have to can be used. For example, I need not brush my teeth now. I will just do it later. For expressing permission, modals like can, may, could, might can be used. For example, may I borrow your pen? For showing no permission, modals can't, cannot, may not, and must not can be used. For example, you cannot go out without a quarantine pass. For showing offer, modals will and shall can be used. Let's say for instance, I will bring your things here. For expressing request, modals will, would, and could can be used. For example, will you open the windows? For expressing promise, a modal will can be used. For example, I will come back after sunset. For expressing decision, modal will also can be used. For example, I will eat now. And for expressing advice and suggestion, modals like shall, should, shouldn't, or should not can be used. Let's say for instance, you should wear appropriate attire for your job interview. For expressing ability, modals can and could can be used. For example, the students can sing harmoniously. And for expressing general truth, can and may can be used. Sample sentence, we can avoid the COVID-19 by following health protocol. Now, for exercise number 1, let's do this. Pick it right for 30 seconds. You are going to determine the function of the underlined modal verb as used in the sentence. Write the letter of your answer on your notepad. Here are the sentences. You are going to do it for 30 seconds. The timer starts now. Time is up! Pens up, and let's check. For number 1, the sentence is, could you open the door for me? And the underlined word is the modal could. Now what do you think is the function of the modal could? The correct answer is letter D, request. Let us have number 2. I will take home the dry goods now. What do you think is the function of the modal will here? The answer is letter B, decision. And for number 3 sentence, may I go now? The underlined modal is may. And this functions as permission. The answer is letter C. Let's proceed to number 4. I can play any musical instrument. The modal can is underlined. And what do you think is the function of this? Very good. It's letter A, ability. And for the last number, you must follow the doctor's advice. The underlined modal is must. And the correct answer for number 5 is letter B, strong obligation. Now who got perfect? Excellent. If not, more chances coming up next. Now let us talk. Read the conversation below and list the modal verbs on your notepad.
Hi, Ina.
Hello, Isa.
Do we really need to wear our face masks whenever we go out?
Of course, Isa. We might get the deadly virus anytime, so we shouldn't take any chances.
You are right, Ina. We can take any chances of getting sick.
We should always wear a face mask and wash our hands to protect us. Now let us do some self-check. Do you also wear a face mask like Isa and Ina? Yes, of course, because this is mandatory nowadays. Now, what modals are used in expressing necessity of wearing face masks? So we have here the modal might, the modal shouldn't, the modal can't, and the modal should. We have learned earlier the different uses of modal verbs. Now, in this assessment, you are going to write the correct modal that would best complete the sentence. The clue can be found after the sentence. Write your answer on your notepad. You will be given 5 seconds to answer each sentence. Let's have number 1. Jana blank turned 18 this year, but because of the pandemic, we have canceled all the preparations and reservations. The clue is really certain. Let us have number 2. To look pleasant is a key in getting a job. So, you blank wear appropriate attire for your interview. The clue is advice and suggestion. Now for number 3, during enhanced community quarantine, only those who have quarantine passes blank go outside from their houses to buy necessities. The function clue is permission. Let us have number 4. My father works abroad, but he promised that he blank return home on my graduation day. The function clue is really certain. And for the last number, everyone blank obey the health protocols given by the government to prevent the spread of the virus and stop the pandemic. The function clue is strong obligation. Ends up. Let's now check your answers. Number 1. The function clue is really certain. Now what do you think is the best modal suited for the sentence? Very good. Jana will turn 18 this year, but because of the pandemic, we have canceled all the preparations and reservations. Number 2. The function clue is advice and suggestion. Now what do you think is the best modal for the sentence? That's right. Should. To look pleasant is a key in getting a job. So, you should wear appropriate attire for your interview. Number 3. The function clue is permission or ability. Now, what is the best modal for this sentence? That's right, can. During enhanced community quarantine, only those who have quarantine passes can go outside from their houses to buy necessities. And for number 4, the function clue given is really certain. Just like in number 1, the answer is, well, my father works abroad, but he promised that he will return home on my graduation day. And for the last number, the function clue given is strong obligation. So what do you think is the best answer for this? That's right, must. Everyone must obey the health protocols given by the government to prevent the spread of the virus and stop the pandemic. No mistakes? Amazing! Not perfect? Well, that's fine. And now, we're down to the final activity. Look at the table below. Based from the meaning of the modal in column A, write the appropriate modal verb for column B and its sample sentence in column C. Write your answers on your notepad. One modal is given as an example, and that is the modal can. For the list, we have number 1, really certain, number 2, very likely, number 3, possible, number 4, strong obligation, number 5, weak obligation, number 6, no obligation, number 7, permission, and number 8, no permission. So So you are given the rest of the time to work on this and let your teacher check your work by sending a clear photo of your answers. As much as possible, avoid erasures. Don't forget that. And now, for your assignment, answer the following parts on your module, Quarter 1, Week 2, Module 2, Modals, pages 1 to 4. Pre-test on your module, looking back to your lesson, introduction guide questions, and viewing with parents. That's all for now. See you next session. Have fun learning!